Are you ready to step into the most unforgettable hour of your life? Good, cause you are getting ready to experience the captivating, inspirational, timeless Dr. Claudreen Jackson.
Join us this season for unforgettable guests, unforgettable stories, and unforgettable moments. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this power-packed hour.
Welcome back to the Claudreen Jackson Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm very honored to have a very special guest today, someone who has been very important in my life as far as my autism journey is concerned. So let me tell you a little bit about her before I introduce her. My book, Inspired by Autism, Dr. Grandin is one of the people that helped inspire me to write this book. And on page 89 of this book, I mentioned that she is one of my heroes. So for me to be able to talk to one of my heroes who has so much of an impact on my life, it's a great honor for me. So Dr. Temple, I am so honored to have you as a guest on my show. And I know how busy you are. So thank you for squeezing us in. Will you say hello to the audience, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I'm Temple Grandin. I am a professor of animal science at Colorado State University. And I had no speech until age 4. You know, all the symptoms of very severe autism. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of early speech therapy. And I had early speech therapy, and I had very, very good teachers. And I'd appreciate it, Claudine, if I could see you. I don't really want to talk to myself. Okay, leave it to the screen like that, please. Because I don't like talking just to myself.
In your book, Emergence, labeled autism, I was 3 pages in, and I knew, yes, this lady has autism, because when I started it, I wasn't sure. But I don't know if you remember how it started, but it started with the car accident and glass that you thought was ice, and you weren't afraid.
Well, I learned a new word, and a lot of times when an autistic kid's stressed, ones that are previously nonverbal, a word will come out. And that's an observation that was made years ago. Also, people today are still sometimes seeing that.
And you explained in that book, that was your first book, and you came to Michigan, and I can't remember, because every time you've come to Michigan, I've made it a point to come and see you and talk to you, and you've been very gracious to all of us parents, and we thank you so much for sharing yourself with us. So how hard is it for you as a person with autism to be so, to do so much outreach?
Well, you learn. One of the things that helped me is that being a child of the 50s, kids were taught greeting and social skills. This is something that's not being done today. Also, in my generation, little kids, when you were 7 and 8 years old, had to dress up in their good clothes and be hosts and hostesses at parents' parties, and had to greet the guests and serve the snacks. That taught important social skills. It's just the basic things like greeting people was taught in a much more systematic way. Like when I go to conferences today, or just maybe meet somebody at the airport or at a store. I just met a kid yesterday. I think he might have been 10 years old. He just didn't know how to greet me. That's something that needs to be taught. There is a lot of anxiety, but that can be taught. Another thing I did as a young child was selling candy for charity. And you had to go up and you had to talk to people. And mother did not do the talking for me.
Some of the things in your book help, because my son is on the opposite end of the spectrum from you. He's on the lower end of the spectrum. He's 49. He still can't read, write, talk, or live independently. And back when I was, as they say, floundering in the void and wondering how I was going to be a parent to this child, in your book, emergence labeled autism, you explained about needing pressure on your body, because my son was going to bed and getting under the mattress, and it just terrified me.
He was definitely one of the pressure seekers, and I used to like to get under really tight covers. And in my later book, Thinking in Pictures, that's one of my later books, I discussed my squeezing machine, modeled after cattle squeeze chute, and the deep pressure over wide areas of my body helped to calm me down. And some autistic kids are pressure seekers and some are not. They're not all the same.
Explaining that helped me not be upset when he was under the mattress instead of just under the cover. You also explained about why he would scream and hold his ears. You explained about the hypersensitive hearing. So
one of the ways to help an individual get over hypersensitive hearing is to have the person initiate the dreaded sound. So let's say a vacuum cleaner, for example, the child should turn the vacuum cleaner on and off. Yesterday I got a text from a really good program for older autistic kids where they have them do gardening. They just started a new vocational project, and when the autistic kids are turning on the electric drills or some other really noisy piece of equipment, they tolerate it when they initiate the sound. That can help get over some of that. You let the kid turn on the noisy thing, and then it's often much better tolerated.
And that is some of your advice that has been so invaluable to us parents. So I say you're on page 89 of my book, Inspired by Autism, but that's in the Heroes chapter, that you are one of my heroes. And when the book first came out and you first came to Michigan, you taught us not to all approach you at the same time, to kind of give you space. So you helped us learn how to deal with our own children. So that's why I appreciate you so much.
But on the other hand, these kids have got to get out and do things. And the big place where I'm seeing a problem is I'm not seeing them transfer into the workplace, learning work skills. They have to learn how to do a task on a schedule where somebody outside the family is a boss. And I talk to people all the time that discover they're autistic when their kids are diagnosed. And most of them have had good jobs, like computer programmer in Silicon Valley. I just talked to a computer programmer this morning who's the mom, who's a problem of spectrum and the mom of an autistic kid. And oftentimes that gives them insight into relationships. But most of these successful people had paper routes and other childhood jobs. Now, I know those are gone now, but we need to find substitutes for paper routes, like church volunteer jobs, walking the neighbor's dog, where you're walking somebody else's dog. So you learn how to work for somebody else. And then on the fully verbal end of the spectrum, as soon as they're legal, they need to get in the workforce. And I have a few suggestions. Let's avoid the multitasking chaos at the McDonald's takeout window. Let's just avoid that. The other thing is, a lot of these individuals need checklists on any task that involves a sequence, like logging into a cash register, logging out. Give them a pilot's checklist of the steps for logging in and logging out. Because if somebody just tells me, I don't remember it, I need to have that written pilot's checklist. That would be a huge help on a lot of jobs.
Most people in the autism community, because you are a great success, but you worked hard to be a great success. I remember you saying about going through the revolving doors over and over to learn how to communicate.
Well, I had to be a total visual thinker. Abstract things had to be represented by real things. Now, as I get older, I don't use door symbolism too much now, because I have plenty of real experiences that I can relate a new experience back to. This is why it's so important to get out and get these kids doing things. There's a tendency to really overprotect them.
Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I thank you so much. Now, your other interest is cattle. So, can you tell us about your new book, Visual Thinking?
Well, I've got that right here, my new book, Visual Thinking. And
Okay.
let's start a little bit about the cattle. I got interested in them because I was exposed to cattle as a teenager. I did not come from a ranching background, and this is why it's so important to get kids out doing things. Now, in my Visual Thinking book, I talk about different ways that people with autism think. And
Yes.
I'm an object visualizer. I'm a total picture person. Everything I think about is a picture. Like after I leave this interview, I'm going to be having lunch with somebody, and I'm now seeing the restaurant where we are going to have lunch.
Wow.
And I don't just do it in words. Now, visual thinkers like me are terrible at algebra, but we're really good at things like inventing mechanical equipment, working with animals, photography, and art. Then another kind of autistic mind is your pattern thinker. You're a mathematician, you're a musician. They think patterns, good at computer programming, good at all kinds of physics stuff. And then you have autistics that are very good with words and facts. And in my visual thinking book, I present research that shows that there really is a difference between an object visualizer like me and the mathematical pattern thinker. They are not the same thing. And I'm very concerned that our educational system is screening out the visual thinkers because we're so bad at higher math. But we have a huge need for these skills because the kinds of jobs they'll be really good at are things like fixing elevators. Everywhere I go now, I am finding broken elevators. And that's because the people that are good at fixing them have retired and they're not getting replaced. They're playing video games in the basement when they ought to be fixing elevators and escalators. I was at Caesar's Palace last week. Gigantic educational convention, 3 broken escalators. They were furious. Yeah, because we don't have the mechanical kind of people to fix that equipment. And those are good jobs. They're not going to get replaced by computers. And they're good jobs for my kind of mind. Now, your mathematicians, I'll tell you what they need to be doing, developing the next generation of quantum computers. I read articles in my science magazines. I don't really understand them, but it's basically quantum computers would replace these vast warehouses full of computers that we have to use right now for storing all the movies and stuff and all the stuff we do online. Cyberspace is massive warehouses of computers that eat up horrible amounts of electricity. Well, some of the things the math thinkers can do would replace that. But we need to be developing our math thinking kids. And I'm seeing bad stuff where little 3rd graders, they're super good at math, they're forced to do baby math over and over and over again. They get bored and they turn into a behavior problem. What they should be doing with those kids is let them have a laptop and take the high school math class, and if they can test out, fine. That's what you do with math kids. Move them ahead. Let them do the more challenging math. I'm not suggesting putting them in high school. I'm suggesting do it at their 3rd grade desk if they can do it. Develop our math kids. We need them.
Your advice is invaluable. Now, I don't want to miss the beginning of you working with cattle, of you actually going into cattle chutes.
Yep, and I talked about that in my book Emergence. I also talked about it in my Thinking in Pictures book. And I got introduced to that when I was 15, and I visited my aunt's ranch.
Yes.
Now, if I hadn't gone to my aunt's ranch, I would not have gotten interested in the cattle industry. See, that's why it's so important to get kids out doing lots of different things, to show them that there's a big world out there.
Right. No one but you would have figured out what the cattle needed. So
one of the things, being a visual thinker, one of the very first things I did with the cattle was to get down in the chutes and see what the cattle were seeing.
Amazing.
See what they're seeing. And someone who's a verbal thinker doesn't think to look at what the cattle were seeing. So if you think in words, you don't think about something that basic.
I also want our audience to know about your movie. There is a Temple Grandin movie. And of course, I saw your movie, and I've even seen you since the movie came out when you were in Michigan. So what kind of an experience was that, having a movie made about you?
Well, it was really wonderful, and Clara Danes became me.
Yes.
She was given all old ancient VHS tapes that she played over and over and over again. And she got so good at being me that when I was being interviewed on the radio, they were playing some clips from the movie, and I almost mixed up her clips with me.
Wow.
The other thing that I really like about the movie is it shows visual thinking very accurately. That is shown accurate.
Yes, it showed a lot of your drawings.
Yep, it showed my actual drawings. I also like that.
And
it showed projects that I had designed that were recreated from original drawings. That I really liked.
So are you still traveling great distances? You told us about how you had to adjust to airports. So are you still in and out of airports that much?
Oh, all the time. All the time. I have a little plaque upstairs. I just was looking at it just when I was getting dressed this morning. 3 million miles on United Airlines, and I got this little glass
Oh my goodness.
thing from United Airlines. So
goodness.
I'm in the airports all the time, and the thing is, I understand airports. One of the things I do, I like to get to the airport really early, so I'm not getting frantic. Oh, we got a long security line. Am I going to get through it? I want to make sure I allow plenty of time for traffic jam on the way to the airport, which we have quite often, or some other problem like the security line's long. So and then I don't get stressed. And then once I get in there nice and early, then I have my favorite restaurants I like to go have a meal in. I can just chill, and I know exactly where they are.
Did you fly as far away as Argentina to help?
Yes,
with the
I was in
cattle
Argentina in June. That was for my work with McDonald's Animal Welfare. Had a great trip to Argentina. We visited a beef plant and a poultry plant.
Do you eat meat?
Yes, I do. Yeah, but I feel very strongly we have to treat the animals right. We've got to give those animals a life worth living. I feel very strongly about that. And I've worked all my career on improving how cattle are handled. There's a lot of things that are much better now than they were when I first started.
And some of that is thanks to you, because like I said, my son is 49. He still cannot talk, can't read, can't write, because he doesn't want to. And he can't live independently. He does the things that he wants to do. Like he can cook, you take him to the market, he will shop. But I was so in so much distress because he was on the lower end of the spectrum, and I could not cure him as some people have. So I had to accept.
Have you tried having him learn typing? Learn to type, not learn to write.
Right. But on my book, Inspired by Autism, that's his artwork. So for one while, he was doing a lot of art, and then he just stopped doing it. He was a great athlete. He won a lot of gold medals, skating and running, and he'd come home and take the gold medals off and try to throw it in the trash. He had no concept of what they meant. So I had to say, this is important. We want this. This is good. But even though he's on a much lower end of the spectrum than you've helped me understand him. So that's what I so greatly appreciate. And not only one of the many people that you have helped. Your subject.
I'm a professor of animal science, and I teach a class in cattle behavior. That's one of the things that I do. I've had a number of graduate students. I have taken the money I've made on books and on speaking engagements, and I've put about 23 students through graduate school, through either PhD program or master's program. I now have 3 of my students who are now college professors, so I'm really happy about that.
You are like I said, you are my hero. You are a lot of people's hero, and I'm so thankful to you. Now, was it hard for you to become a public person? Because most people with autism,
you just have to learn. Like when I did my first public speaking in graduate school, I panicked and I walked out. So what I learned that I had to do is either have really good slides, and I was a good photographer. So when I did my first talks on cattle handling, I had good slides. And then if you panic, you go to the next slide. Now, if I have to do a talk with no slides, then I need to make a checklist of the things I'm going to talk about. And then I go down the checklist. And then I might have some figures I have to remember, some numbers. I'll write those on the checklist. But by having that checklist, then I know what my talk would be like. For example, typical autism talk, I would talk early intervention. And I have 4 things I want in early intervention out of a kid. Speech, turn taking, learning how to wait and take turns, skills like dressing, and the 3-year-old should be learning these things and like going to therapy. Okay, that's my most important stuff to talk about for 3 and 4-year-olds for early intervention. Then I would go on and maybe discuss sensory issues, sound sensitivity, visual sensitivity, which I don't have, but some individuals do, touch sensitivity.
Yes, because originally my son did not want to be touched. And
that's right.
You explained about not wanting to wear dresses, and you helped me understand why he was taking off his clothes at times.
Well, one of the things to help on the touching, and the squeeze machine helped me on this, is I finally made it work with an air cylinder, and I could control it. Yes. And when you control it, then I got to where I like to be hugged now, because I desensitized it, because I could control the squeeze machine. See this? Another big problem I'm seeing now is people are wearing headphones all the time. Now, if you wear headphones all the time, it's going to make sound sensitivity worse. It will make it worse. So what you want to do is have them with you all the time. Control. Have them with you. Have them in your backpack or whatever. Put them around your neck, whatever. Have them with you. And then you only put them on when you need them. At the airport the other day, when they had the Microsoft gigantic blue screen total mess up, it messed up the door alarms. And I had to get on a plane with this screeching sound in the jet bridge that was absolutely horrible. Now, fortunately, I'm early boarding because I'm 1K. I about ran down that jet bridge just to get away from that. It was terrible, and they couldn't turn it off. So they had to load the entire plane with this absolute screeching right at the boarding door. It was horrid. It was just the other day. Now, I just walked down the jet bridge really fast to get away from it. But that's a situation where, let's say, somebody else with autism, that's when you put the headphones on. For those kind of situations.
Because my son wears headphones when he's out sometimes. I tried the earplugs. You told us about the earplugs, but he wouldn't keep them in. So sometimes we have him wearing headphones.
But that screeching sound, I'm going, and just as I went up to the boarding door, it just screeches, an awful shrill. It was the nastiest door alarm I'd ever heard. And the gate agent wanted to turn it off, but couldn't because there was blue screens of death everywhere. And fortunately, flight's not canceled.
Oh, what a terrible situation for a person with autism to be in. So do you still consider yourself as
that's why you have the headphones with you. Have the headphones with you, and in that situation, you put the headphones on.
So Dr. Grandin, can you believe that our time is just about up? I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, but I want to say that interviewing you is somewhat of a full circle moment for me. Because in my book, Inspired by Autism, you were one of the people who inspired me. So you have done so much that we don't know how many people you have helped. But I'm here to tell you that I'm one of them. So I thank you so much.
That's good, and I want to just give practical advice to help people, like having the headphones with you. But I've seen situations where headphones were worn all the time, and the sound sensitivity got worse, not better. That's why when you're in a quiet situation, you need to take them off. But then for these really horrible noises, then you put them on. I also have a young reader's version of my visual thinking book for middle school readers right here, Different Kinds of Minds. I have a lot of books now. We were talking about older people discovering they're autistic. I've got another book. It's titled Different Not Less. And 18 people diagnosed later in life described their experiences. And all of these people are employed with a variety of different kinds of jobs.
Well, I hate to say goodbye to you. It's been such an enlightening conversation, but may you continue to do the work that you're doing, and thank you for sharing yourself with us.
You are very, very welcome.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Claudreen Jackson Show. And until next time, may the power of God protect you, and may the love of God enfold you.
Are you ready to tell your autism story, one of love, resilience, and the unique journey of raising a child on the spectrum? Then we invite you to be part of something extraordinary, a powerful anthology that gives voice to the experiences of parents just like you. Your story matters. Your words can inspire, uplift, and connect with families navigating similar paths. Whether it's a moment of triumph, a lesson learned, or the everyday beauty of your child's world, we want to hear it. This anthology package includes 15 dedicated pages, writer's workshop, writer support, virtual book release, video commercial, press release, social flyers, global distribution in 50,000 stores worldwide, and the best part is the cost is only $100. Submit your interest today on our website and become part of this incredible anthology.
Step into a world where imagination knows no bounds, where a simple van becomes the key to the greatest adventure of all time. It all started with a simple writing exercise. I began a sentence, and my students took it from there. The Magic Van isn't just a story, it's a journey, born from the creativity of Detroit public school students brought to life through their own words and dreams. Get your copy now. Available on Amazon.com. All proceeds benefit the Purvis Jackson Jr. Autism Foundation.
The PJ Collection. High tops. Slip-ons. Sweatshirts. Drink flasks. The PJ Collection. Available now at claudreenjackson.tv.